We're back, fresh from Johnny Lingo. An experience I didn't need to have.
Or me, and yet have repeated it several times over.
Today we're reading chapter 7. We had a short one last week.
Wow, we're almost done.
We're going to be reading 10 pages today.
Wow. Buckle in.
Well, anyone who's new here, I guess maybe you would still have a lot of other episodes to watch. I don't know. Welcome.
Figure your shit out.
Get it together. Oh boy. All right. Read. Start reading. Just read. Go. It was summer and the night of the Major League All-Star Game, and also the night for the stake single adult committee meeting. Scheduling conflict.
Acronym SACM.
In the spirit of pioneer sacrifice, I left the TV and walked to the meeting house. Did he just say that it was the night of the All-Star Game just so we can make that joke? Or is it going to be part of the chapter? I can't wait to know. Listening to the game on my old portable radio. It was a scruffy-looking model, but it worked, except for the back cover fell off with the slightest jar. Just telling us about the not CD player, old portable radio. Cool.
What is that? Is it much like a phone?
I just love the details about the radio. We held our meetings in the High Council room.
He's just like he is like Radio Shack as a personality.
When I arrived, the only person in the room was a new female representative from another ward. I told you, one paragraph into the next chapter, we were going to meet Jack's new wife.
It's about time. Chapter 7.
It's
lucky.
Literally one paragraph in. I knew at once she was a return missionary because of her short, easily kept hairstyle and her white blouse buttoned to the top, accented with a scarf around her neck.
Gay, maybe? What?
She looked up as I entered, and I, with radio to my ear, nodded politely and sat down on the far end of the long table.
Sorry, did sister missionaries always, have shorter cut hair? Is that I've never really heard
easily
that.
Kept. Maybe that would be a thing. It would be, easier to... Because you have such short time constraints on your mission, and long hair maybe is more work.
I just find it weird how you can ID somebody with an ocular pat down, RM.
Because you sound just like any woman. Okay, so he's being a bad boy. He's listening to his radio. It was the bottom of the 8th inning, and the score was tied. As time passed, most of the guys on the committee sat near me, and we all listened to the game. Finally, it was the bottom of the 9th. My team was 1 run behind with 2 men on and 1 away.
Sorry, it only just dawned on me that this was baseball. I didn't.
I was like, what?
What shaped ball are we playing with?
I wasn't even trying to figure out the game. My brain had just accepted, okay, just get through this information.
All sports is hockey in my mind.
The state clerk came into the room and announced that our high counselor on the committee wouldn't be able to attend because his wife had just gone into labour. He asked if I would conduct the meeting. Why don't we wait a minute for the game to end, I asked. Is that all right with everyone? I think we should begin now, the new girl said. To this, she showed up on time. She doesn't want to wait for these boys to finish their little game.
She sounds a bit assertive. I bet she is an ordained women supporter.
Ew. To this day, I'm not sure I heard her say anything. I turned up the radio. The batter hit a single into shallow center field. 3 men were on with only 1 away. During a station break while they changed pitchers, the new representative walked over to where we were sitting. If we say a meeting is going to start at 7:30, then I think it should start at 7:30. I'm on her team.
Yeah.
The next batter hit a long fly ball into right field. It was caught on the warning track. Please, can the game end soon? So
I'm like, do we have to get the play-by-play?
Yeah, let's just skip this. 2 men out. The next batter went to a full count. Would someone who's even in baseball be, engaged by this? Because, why would they care to read a fictional I don't know. Time out because somebody threw some trash on the field. If we can't set a good example for promptness as a state committee, how can we expect the same from the wards? I didn't hear a word she said. Now, as we resume the game, the count is 3 balls,
Obviously
2 strikes.
You did. You wrote it down.
I know, weird. The base is loaded. Here's the wind-up.
Isn't that a weird thing about books? It's written by the main character in this way, but there's no indication that he sat down to write a book. He's just kind of living it.
Yeah.
Weird. Books.
Very strange.
Fuck are books?
I think that the first person of the future is much more self-aware than we've typically needed it to be.
Yes.
Here's the wind-up and the pitch. She turned off my radio. Doesn't anybody care about promptness? Two of us dived to turn on the radio, proceeding instead to knock it off the table. I am surprised that Sam is so openly embracing sports over his church priorities. This is not like him at all. But it is like Jack to teach us a lesson about how to run a state committee.
Uh-huh.
I ran to the other side of the table, only to see the back cover off and the batteries scattered over the floor. I fell to my knees and frantically began stuffing the batteries inside. One was missing. I crawled under the table to look for it. "I'm sorry about your radio," she called out, looking at me under the table. Then she crawled under the table with me. A meet cute.
Oh, under the table? Everyone knows that being under the table is sexy.
Mm-hmm. Searching and apologizing at the same time. It's just that time is so valuable, do you know what I mean? Time's all we have, isn't it? That's one of the most important lessons from my mission.
Oh, God.
She's just like Sam! Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
I stopped... Just read a really weird bit and I don't know how to feel about it. I stopped searching to stare at her. It's Charlie, I thought, with a sudden leap of emotion. Who else would be crazy enough to be under a high council table with me?
Okay, what the fuck?
Weird leap of logic. Probably not a good time to marry someone new.
Also, reference to what?
I think it's so...
The idea.
It's so, cheeky.
Quirky.
For a woman to be on her knees under a table searching for a battery.
Hilarious.
Only Charlie. It's like, no, actually, like, women have personalities, Sam, and, like, they like to do stuff just as much as men do.
So I thought she was having, like, a Brigham Young getting transfigured into Joseph Smith moment.
Oh, actually, we don't know. Maybe it's that. She found the missing battery and gave it to me.
Charlie's mantle has just fallen.
Oh, so I feel like... I don't know if it's a great sign to be, like... I assume he's going to marry this woman.
Yeah.
Your first thought when meeting them is like, she's just like my ex-wife. Perfect. You know, that
feels
awesome. Like a bit of a weird... That's probably not going to turn out well for you.
I don't even care so much about baseball.
I continued to stare at her as though she came from another planet. Are you going to turn it on now? She asked. You mean my charm? I said, nearly giggling.
Oh, what?
Sam, someone yelled. For crying out loud, turn on the radio. I slipped the battery in the radio. In all my years covering baseball, I don't ever recall a play like that last one. Wow. To think they missed hearing it in an audio format. That's so sad. It's like, either way, you don't get to see it.
We didn't even get to read it.
What play? Somebody yelled. The technical director for this broadcast has been Morris Selmyers. What play? So on behalf of the CBS network, it was over, and we didn't know the score. I was still grinning at her.
Why is life even worth continuing under these conditions?
She smiled back politely and left me. I crawled out, stood up, and found myself staring at her again. She had light brown hair with a slightly reddish tint. I knew she wouldn't be blonde. We knew she wouldn't be blonde. There were hundreds of curls. Hundreds? That's a really tight curl.
Many tens of curls.
Like 50 on either side. I'm trying to think, like, I usually will have like 30 on each side.
Have you counted your curls?
No, if I had to guess. I'm just saying that sounds like a lot of curls. I imagine that when she washed her hair... Yeah, this girl in the thing doesn't look like some... That's not a corkscrew curl. Jack? Please, continuity.
Is that like rounds or like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 8,
Yeah,
9,
like
10,
if like this doesn't work because this is straightened, but like that will be one curl.
One curl.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
but like 100 is so many.
It's a lot of curls.
She had light brown hair with a slightly reddish tint, hundreds of curls. I imagine that when she washed her hair, all she did to dry off was shake her head like a cocker spaniel. She had a long, graceful Audrey Hepburn neck, thank God, partially obscured by a scarf that added some colour to the creamy white embroidered blouse she was wearing. Her face was very nice. Its most appealing features were her brown eyes and a summer's crop of freckles. Maybe she's like Charlie, I thought. Great. Maybe this won't be his wife, hard to tell. She broke the spell by walking down to pick up a clipboard and returning to say, well, I guess we can get started on our meeting now, can't we? Oh, rats, I moaned inwardly. She's efficient. I asked someone to pray. After that, I realised I had no idea what business to cover. I asked for the minutes to be read, hoping to get a clue. Margaret's not here and she has the minute book. Well, I stammered, I'm not sure exactly what Brother Hammond had in mind for us to talk about tonight. Silence.
Can we all just take a moment to flip off loud motorcycles, everyone together?
Every time I hear it, I'm like, who hurt you? Mm-hmm. Who didn't listen to you enough when you were young? Mm-hmm. It just is so cringe. Did he talk to anyone about what he wanted us to cover? Silence, lowered heads. I've taken the liberty of drawing up a tentative agenda, the new girl said. Oh yeah, big ordained women energy. Oh, what's your name?
The Feminist Agenda.
Lara White. I'm the young adult representative from Second Ward. I just returned from a mission to New Mexico. I'm originally from Idaho, but I'm working in Salt Lake City and staying with my aunt. Well, I had to give it some character.
I'm new in town.
Well, Sister White.
I have AIDS.
We'd like to... Is that a skit that I haven't watched?
John Mulaney.
Oh, yeah. We'd like to welcome you to our meeting. I apologize for ruining your baseball game. She handed me her clipboard with the agenda on it. Can you imagine if the women were, like, listening to, like... This didn't exist back then, but, like, the Bachelor finale on a radio, like, how much the men would belittle that. But she's apologizing for deigning to suggest that they start on time. Well...
Something tells me he wants to go to first, second, third base, and maybe even a home run.
She handed me her clipboard with the agenda on it. Well, I said, since Sister White has been kind enough to provide us with an agenda, I guess we can proceed. I stopped talking, not believing the first item on the agenda. Oh, okay, so she writes the agenda, but he still leads the meeting. That's good.
Yeah. They do the work. I take the credit.
First item is Christmas customs in New Mexico. Is that right, Sister White? Is that an agenda I'm reading? Yes, it is, she said calmly. I see. Christmas customs in New Mexico. What do you mean by that, Sister White? She stood and cleared her throat. Her hand nervously went to her scarf as she began. Well, as I explained, I just returned from a mission to New Mexico. They have a wonderful Christmas custom there that would be so worthwhile for us to start here. What they do is take a little paper bag, pour a little sand in it, then stick a candle in the sand and light it. This is the top item on a state committee agenda.
First things first.
They might have hundreds of these on their lawns, outlining their sidewalks, or even on the roof. The whole town looks like a little fairy castle.
It's
a nice
so
sunset.
pretty out there.
I think we should do something like that as a single adult project for Christmas. One of the guys on the committee started laughing. You want us to put candles in sacks and set them on fire? You're not, Charlie, I thought sadly. Oh no, the sack doesn't burn, just the candle. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's beautiful.
They're like, what if we filled some sacks with dog shit and put it on people we don't like?
What if we put fireworks in there? They'll go off when people walk past. Oh no, okay. By any chance, one of the guys joked, does your father manufacture either bags or sand or castles? Your father. Or sell fire insurance, another joked. It's a beautiful custom. Definitely not Charlie, I thought. She's a returned lady missionary with a clipboard.
A lady missionary,
I feel like Charlie had big clipboard.
Yeah, Charlie was
missionary energy.
Holding meetings and taking names.
She wouldn't even need to have a thing of notes because she was like really.
Everyone's name.
Her hand wouldn't shake nervously.
And why does everyone have to be Charlie?
Ew,
People
just
can just be
throwing
their
some
own
fucking
person.
shade at sister missionaries here, which
a lady missionary.
It's annoying because it's like it's almost like you can't. Well, I know the year and a half that do girls still only go out for a year and a half and
so.
Men 2 years. Is that still a thing? I just think that's really weird. I know it's probably to preserve the women's youth so they can get married younger, but why do they need to get married younger than the men? That's
weird.
The
eggs are getting dusty.
Fundamentally weird
right
that in 2021 the church is still doing that. The optics of it are bad and I don't know why it's not getting more pressure. But also the way that like men will belittle sister missionaries because it's like, well, you didn't do like the hard thing I did because you didn't go for as long and like blah, 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 blah. And if you went, you were an old hag.
You didn't have the burdens of being his own leader.
Yeah, we've met one other returned missionary so far, I think, in this whole book, and it was the overweight girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's a returned lady missionary with a clipboard. Either she was a pain to her supervising elders because she always complained, or else a pain to all the elders because she outperformed them in missionary work. Thank you,
Maybe
I said
both.
carefully, trying to avoid telling her how dumb I thought her idea was. That was certainly an interesting suggestion, wasn't it? And we'll certainly want to give it more study. Since Christmas is 5 months away, maybe we could appoint a committee to look into it. Dave and Chuck, will you study her suggestion about burning bags for Christmas? Do you think there's even a real thing that happens in New Mexico?
I've seen it in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we sure will, Dave said with a grin. I glanced at the rest of her agenda.
They do it on Halloween there.
The second item was bread. Somehow I knew she wanted everyone to stop eating white bread and start with whole wheat bread, no doubt causing the entire single adult group to develop problems with gas. If switching from white to wheat bread is causing you to develop problems with gas, then you have got some serious microbiome issues, Jack.
Yeah.
Sam, sorry, John, whoever.
Have a booch.
Have an apple, just one time. The third item was Scripture Bowl. I knew she wanted us to sponsor a scripture chase, just so she could demonstrate her skill. Only thinking of herself with no consideration for the interests of the group. How selfish.
Oh, no. You would know nothing about that.
Is it going to turn out that she's actually very selfless?
Yeah.
No, you're not Charlie. The fourth item was journals.
Oh my God.
All of these don't feel relevant at a state committee level. They do all feel very like the bread thing, maybe like you figure that out on your own. I pictured a seminar in which she read boring passages from her life. Suddenly, I was mad at her for not being Charlie. Great.
This is outrageous.
And for her dumb ideas, and for talking so freely at her first council meeting instead of respectfully listening for a few months the way most of the other women on the committee did. Not the men.
Men,
Not just new people on the committee.
You can berate strangers in their home. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
I know! I certainly wasn't going to plod through the rest of her dumb agenda. Hating a woman because she's not your ex-wife, also just feels objectifying. I know that grief affects us all differently, but it's like a woman is only useful to me if she can be my wife.
My wife.
And if not, at least have the decency to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
That's
all
the second best thing you could do.
We certainly want to thank Sister Wheat. It's white, not wheat, she corrected. For her input tonight. She's only been here a short time and look at what she's done already. Two of the more avid baseball fans grumbled about what she'd done. Thank you, Sister White, for your suggestions. If you want, you may call me Lara. If it's all the same, I'll call you Sister White, I replied coolly. The Church of Jesus Christ.
Of Latter-day Whites.
By setting my notebook on her agenda, I managed to bury it. There are some items we should cover. I think it'd be nice if we sponsored a single adult racquetball tournament. The rest of the meeting went smoothly.
Isn't Sam ecstatic about that? Doesn't he love racquetball?
Also, this must have been back in the day when it was expected that the church would provide for all your social needs. Because I'm like, they are not doing racquetball tournaments anymore. Sister White contented herself with keeping notes. In an hour, we had finished. After the meeting, she stayed behind to finish her notes while I talked to Dave about the size of the trophies for our racquetball tournament. Then he left, and she and I were alone. You don't seem very interested in new ideas, she said, still writing.
You summed them up. You got it.
On the contrary, we always like new ideas. That's how we progress. Yeah, I knew you were gonna. I knew you couldn't pass by them without saying Peggy. Why were you staring at me under the table? I'm sorry. I thought at first that you were like someone I used to know, but I was wrong. You aren't anything like that person.
Now you're just a Charlie that I used to know.
So absurd. Later in the meeting, I felt...
I'll stop.
Later in the meeting, I felt you turned very cold toward me. If we're going to work together on this committee, we should get along. Why don't you like me?
Wow, way to be perceptive and upfront, straightforward. Really cool.
Nice, Lara. Sister White, I don't even know you enough not to like you. but he's already deep resentment towards her. But I'm sure with time... I shook my head. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. Is it because you didn't get along with lady missionaries on your mission?
Why is everyone saying lady missionaries? It seems like such an awkward phrase.
Lady cop. That seemed a better explanation than the real one. Yes, that's it. Well, I don't suppose I'll get much done with you in charge of the committee. You want us all to bake bread in unison with you, don't you? I snapped. Why are you so mad at me? I'm not mad. There's no reason for me to be mad at you, and so I'm not mad. Then please lower your voice. Sister White, I'm going home now, but I'm leaving you with a compliment. You have nice hair. I like the short little curls. Ew, he's so sexist. He's so sexist.
Ew.
Thank you, she said, softening a bit.
He just Johnny Lingo'd her.
I know, that's what I thought. A woman's ultimate value is in her beauty. So he's like, well, you're a huge bitch, but I can appreciate that you're kind of hot. So Let's end on a positive note, shall we? I'll bet you don't even have to curl it, do you? All you do is concentrate real hard and it does whatever you want, doesn't it? Well, you'll find that's one difference between your hair and me. Wow. Sam with the zingers.
What
Good night, Sister White.
What a child.
How did a man, like, come up with, like, a curling iron metaphor on the fly? A day later, I felt rotten for insulting her. That's the trouble with a conscience. It keeps bugging you. Does it?
First we've heard of Sam's conscience.
I know,
that's
kind
new.
Of very new.
New development.
I decided to phone and apologise. Sister White, this is Sam Roberts. Have we known that his last name was Roberts before?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Maybe?
Sam Roberts.
For some reason, I didn't imagine his last name being Roberts. I was the one under the table last night. She laughed. I hope nobody's listening in on this conversation. I called to apologise for being so rude. I accept. Now it's my turn. I apologise for being so impatient with you. Pause.
You were fine.
I guess we've cleaned the slate, haven't we? She said. I guess so. Can we talk for a few minutes to fill it with things we won't have to erase again? A minute later, we got onto the subject of our missions. You know, she said, that reminds me of something that happened on my mission. We'd been tracting all day and it was time to quit, but there were just 4 more houses on the block, so I suggested we finish. On the last house, we met a wonderful family. We taught them, and 4 weeks later, they were baptized. A wonderful family of 6. Okay, so overwork yourself because someone's salvation might depend on it. It's a good message. 6, how nice, I said politely. But your story reminds me of something that happened on my mission. We were out tracting and there was a house with a big fence and a sign that read, "Beware of the dog." I told my companion we weren't going to let a little dog stop us, so we opened the gate and the dog came over and jumped him. I went ahead and knocked on the door while he wrestled with the dog. So you made him do that and then you leave him alone. I met the nicest family there. They called off the dog and let us in. In a few weeks, they were all baptized. A family of 7. The other family was only 6. That's
spiritual
the priesthood,
dominance.
Baby. How nice, she said politely. My family of 6 has been such an asset to the church. He's a bishop now. Oh, a bishop. Are they the same person? Like, they're just both bragging about how churchy they are? Oh, a bishop, I said, outwardly delighted. That's nice. Is the family you baptized still active in the church? She asked. Oh, yes, he's the custodian of a very large chapel. You know, a good custodian is worth so much these days, maybe even more than a bishop. Not only is he a bishop, she continued, but they in turn invited their friends to learn about the church. Last time I checked, 4 other families had joined from their efforts. This is so cringe. Even just imagining that this would exist, even in the imagination, is terrifying. I would not be defeated. Secretly, though, I loved the challenge. Ew, this is fucking flirting for them.
I'm afraid I've permanently damaged my eyes from rolling them so hard.
A custodian is the hub around which a ward rotates. And from those families, there are now 2 missionaries serving. Who knows how many they've baptized by now. This is so weird. An excellent custodian can save the church thousands of dollars each year by doing routine maintenance himself.
For free.
Yep, that's true. For example, my custodian does his own periodic boiler upkeep. Yeah, let's get unqualified people in the ward to do boiler upkeep. Is that good? She asked. Oh my, yes. Not only that, who can put a price on the value to missionary work of a well-kept lawn and flowers? Do you know how many people join the church each year just because they drive by our buildings and think, I ought to join that church, they keep up their lawn? Do you?
Sounds like a really good metric for a
1950s.
Spiritual... Yeah, exactly.
Really not looking for much in a religious organisation.
No,
just
no.
tell me what to do, I'll be there.
That seems like a colossal waste of resources. They must have their shit together.
Oh yeah, Utah, lawn, love it. No, I don't, she confessed. How many? A long pause. I don't know either, but I'm sure we'd both be surprised by how many there are. I started to laugh. I surrender. You topped me this time. Ew, that was the worst flirting in the world.
That's disturbing.
I hated that. Can you come over? Well, I don't know. If I came over, I might get to like you. That'd be too bad, wouldn't it? We were getting to be such good enemies. If you want, we can sit under my aunt's kitchen table. So far, that's been the only time you've been very friendly. Why not? I said. I've still got a family of 10 I haven't used yet. Give me an hour to get ready. The reason I like her, I thought as I shaved, is she's a challenge. Sam loves a challenge. That turned out to be one of the great understatements of my life.
Ooh, foreshadow.
An hour later, when I rounded a corner, I saw 20 paper bags glowing in the dark along the sidewalk to her house. She was sitting on the porch waiting for me. Have any trouble finding the house? She teased as I walked up the glowing sidewalk. Sorry for making fun of your idea. They look great. She showed me how to set one up. A small paper bag, a candle, a little sand or soil. In New Mexico, they call them luminarios. Luminarios.
She has extreme at my old school energy.
I know. It's like you went on a mission, you wear a Brazilian football jersey now. We get it. But like the whole world doesn't have to be wearing the Brazilian football jersey. We went inside. I met her aunt, Sister Gillespie, a cheery lady who played the role of matchmaker. God, there's an adult present. We had grape juice and a slice of whole wheat bread. Then we played Pit, a game where everyone yells trying to trade off some cards.
A little too close to sacrament for my liking. Juice and bread.
After the first game, Lara excused herself for a minute. Also, their first date is playing a board game with her aunt. Yay! She's a beautiful girl, isn't she? Yes, she is. And she's smart too, and a wonderful cook. She made the bread, you know, and so spiritual. I nodded as the sales pitch continued. Then Lara returned and her aunt disappeared. Ooh, I played my trump card, the family of 10, and she didn't even try to top it. An hour later, we walked out on her porch. Imagine if like a non-member read this, like just the way that they're objectifying people who join the church too is just like blessings for them.
10.
But missionary work is totally not about validating the ego of the missionary by converting often people in developing nations to this white church. The real spiritual thing would just to not even need it to be about the numbers. And I thought Sam already knew that.
We thought he did, but it's hard to, you can't
But
teach
that
an
was
old
with
dog new
Charlie.
tricks.
An hour later, we walked out on her porch. I'd like to take you out tomorrow night. That would be nice, she said. Oh, one thing, I said. In case you're wondering if I was going to kiss you, I'm not. I wasn't wondering, she said. Pause. You weren't? I'm very selective about who I kiss. What I mean is, even if we date a lot, I probably won't ever kiss you. Fine, she said, apparently unconcerned.
Even if we
Really
get
weird.
married, I probably will never kiss you.
I want to take you out on a date, and by the way, if we date, I'm never going to kiss you. Cool. Is she just supposed to be okay with that? I studied her. Is that why you went on your mission? What? Oh, some lady missionaries resent men. If a woman...
I can't imagine why.
If a woman is anything but married by 21, she resents men. If a woman wants to do something that's like almost as good as what the men do, she hates men.
Also being...
Anytime a woman seeks independence in any way, she hates men.
Oh, and in the mission, it sucks so bad because, like, the women are older than the men. Because at least, I don't know how it is now, but I think a year later.
Yeah, it used to be... No, it used to be 19 and 21.
Yeah.
And 21 was considered really old for a married woman in the church.
So a 21-year-old has these, like, fresh out of home 19-year-olds who are telling them what to do, who are totally impervious to their needs.
And they've, like, got a bachelor's degree.
And you're not allowed... Like, they're just not allowed. You're like, sorry, you do not have the priesthood. Your say just, like, doesn't count. You just have to do what you're told.
Yeah.
Like, perpetually. Lady missionaries in the chat.
Also,
can I get a what?
I feel like he's kind of, like, alluding to women being lesbians because it's, like, the fact that she's fine with the fact that he wouldn't kiss her must mean she resents men, and that's what lesbians are. People who, like, women who don't want to kiss men. It's because they resent men, not because they just aren't attracted, it's just not their thing. When I was a zone leader, we had several like that. What you mean is they didn't like you, she defended.
I'm living proof that you can resent men and kiss them.
They didn't like any men. If they didn't like any men, why would they be on this fucking mission for Jesus Christ, Joseph Smith, all the old guys who run the church?
All the dudes. They love dudes.
She laughed. Is this a trick to get me to kiss you? To prove I'm not a man-hater? No trick, I said, suddenly serious. It hasn't been that long since my wife died.
Whoa.
I understand. I still love her. We were married in the temple, so we're still married.
But he is damaged goods now.
He is damaged goods.
He has, even though it was marital, he has been chewed up. Gum.
Well, but he is a man, so I don't think it's like the same, you know. Like it's fine for men to have. I mean, that's the doctrine of the church, plural wives. Charlie was in on it, you know.
A little folly in Israel.
It is literally like not a standard that applies to men. How's that for dumping cold water on things? Even the fact that, like, if a woman's husband dies, she has to wrestle forever with the idea that she'll have to be with one or the other in the next life. But with men, they're like, I can have all of these. Like, that alone is an idea that needs to be explored endlessly until people get how fucked up it is. You're honest. I like that. I reached out and held her hand. How old are you? 23. She's supposed to be this, like, old, like, man-hating. I'm 27. So it's like she's still 4 years younger than you. Like, she's quite a young girl for you to be dating. Like, it's reasonable, sure, but it's like, in his mind, he's probably... Like, that's the minimum acceptable age difference.
I remember thinking 21-year-olds were so old.
I do too. When you were in high school, she kidded, I was still getting the weekly reader. It's fun talking to you, Lara. I'd spent the evening admiring her face. The smooth, graceful neck and almost sculptured beauty of her face were offset by the down-home touch of her freckles. Looking into her eyes as I did then gave me the feeling of falling, like some wandering comet suddenly captured by the sun.
I do love women attracted to women, but I cannot stand hardly ever hearing a male author write about a woman. Every time I'm like...
Like, just be real. Just, like, say what you're actually thinking. Don't, like, do this weird prose. I'd like to compliment you on your eyes, I said, still captured by them. Since I've been married before, I know about the wonders of chemistry women use to look nice. You know, eyeliner, eyeshadow, eye-colouring pencils, mascara. Still, I find a certain satisfaction in staring into your eyes.
A certain satisfaction. He has Wayne such a poet.
So he's like... I get that this is all painted on, and yet still I'm beguiled by it. It's so crazy. If that's a compliment, she grinned, then thank you. I escaped. Well, good night, Sister White. Don't forget to say your prayers. I won't. I'll pray for you. What for? That you'll come by again? Tomorrow night? My prayers are answered, she smiled. Can I ask you a personal question? Is there anything wrong with your neck? No, why? Well, that scarf around your neck. It's July, you know. I thought you might be hiding some sort of scar. And I have to know about the scar up front if we're going on another date tomorrow.
Again, I do not want damaged goods.
I know how women try and cover things up with scarves. Just a habit from my mission, I guess. Here, I'll show you. She pulled off her scarf, revealing the rest of her attractive neck.
Ooh,
when neck's like a bigger deal in the 60s, because, like, you know how it's called necking and petting.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess when women used to wear shirts up to the collarbone, well, next thing, the neck. Oh, sure, a regular neck. Thanks. Good night, Sam. Why did we have the neck thing? Why did the neck thing happen? Good night, Sister White. She shook her head. That won't do anymore. It won't? Now that you've seen my neck, you'd better call me Lara.
Nice, Lara.
Good night, Lara. Good night, Sam. Good night, little patrons.
Good night, Moon.
That's
Good night, bowl full of
chapter.
porridge. Good night, Banksy. Good night, Bernie.
We'll see you next week for chapter 8.
Good night, my little bones.
That's the perfect ending.